Hi, Dr. Snook. Today I'm going to be telling you about the different attitudes humans have towards animals. So, Blown is my core reference article for this presentation, and I just want to give a disclaimer about generalizability because this study was only done on dog-human relations, and I'm going to be expanding this out to include that of all companion animals alongside humans, but that may not have been the intended purpose of the study. So there are a lot of different approaches to animals in regards to human-animal relations. Barbara Wilkinson identifies quite a few more perspectives than these, and I have her cited later on, but for brevity's sake and for conciseness, concision, I'm going to stick with Blowen's original three approaches. The dominionistic approach, which puts an animal's needs below human needs, humanistic approach, which puts animals' needs at or above a human's, and then protectionistic, which puts animals' needs on par with a human's. The question I'm kind of situating this talk in is what the best orientation is to have towards animals. So by the end of this presentation, I hope to give you somewhat of an answer to this question. So first, really quickly, I'm going to go over the dominionistic attitude towards animals, which views animals as objects rather than subjects, relating to Mark Rowland's distinction of instrumentally valuable animals. So because they are objectified, they are often seen as a tool or some sort of means to an ends. Thus, there's the proposition that this orientation has the least amount of attachment to their companion animals. That doesn't mean the attachment is non-existent. It just means it's perhaps less warm than that of the other orientations I'm about to mention. Blowen references a study by Kempton, Boster, and Hartley that situates this view within a religious approach to nature that kind of believes in the subjugation of nature. And this point is also echoed by R. Lucan Sanders, who specifically identified the Judeo-Christian tradition as being one that views nature as something to be conquered by man. So Barbara Wilkinson identifies this attitude, the dominionistic attitude towards animals, as primarily interested in the mastery and control of animals. So that again harkens back to this idea of needing to control, or as the name would indicate, dominate animals. I want to pull this quote from an article that I read talking about parenting styles in relations to animals and animal handling. A dominionistic orientation was associated with authoritarian correction-orientated parenting, indicating that combined demandingness and non-responsiveness in dog-directed parenting partly results from the owner's perceived need to dominate the dog. So again, having this perspective that the animal is less than, that it's something to be conquered, that nature in general is something to be conquered, it all kind of encapsulates this dominionistic view that, again, ultimately results in a lower level of attachment to the animal. So next, I'm going to dive into the humanistic orientation towards animals. This views animals not only as subjects, but as unique and extremely valuable persons. This can be viewing animals maybe as babies, your best friend, maybe even more valuable than other humans. And I want to know, interestingly, that Barbara Wilkinson makes a distinction that those with a humanistic orientation only hold certain animals, such as pets, or maybe even particularly their pets, in such high regard, not other animals. This orientation as well is more likely to endorse the selfhood of a companion animal than that of the dominionistic orientation. This might be one of the metrics that might identify a level of personhood, might be the ability to share attention, as Irvine points out in their 2007 article. So sharing focus or attention might come in the form of watching a TV show together. I know my parents referenced their cats watching Animal Planet with them, and so when they would leave the apartment for long stretches of time, they would turn on the TV so that the animals would have something to do. And not be bored or distraught by the absence of the human. So these attitudes are a little bit out there, and as Taylor notes in their textbook, this orientation may be perceived outwardly as odd or even pathological. And one reason this might be is because children seem to hold this orientation towards animals very much humanizing them and seeing them as equal to or perhaps even greater than human as far as their abilities and as far as the importance of meeting their needs goes. Finally, we come to the protectionistic perspective, which views animals as intrinsically valuable rather than having their worth determined by some sort of surrogate personhood. According to Herwinian et al., this orientation predicts a parenting style of high responsiveness and low demandingness, which, if you'll notice, is in complete contrast to the dominionistic perspective I presented before. This orientation is based on fulfilling the animal's needs and wants rather than that of a human, which is the downfall of both of the previous orientations. Even in the humanistic orientation, the human may be projecting certain desires onto the dog, while the protectionistic orientation actually seeks to understand these desires. So, to just really quickly highlight the differences, the protectionistic orientation is different because obviously they view animals' needs as equal to humans, and it acknowledges a level of selfhood on the part of the animals, but it's different from the humanistic perspective because the people with a protectionistic orientation tend to love all animals, not just their own, as the humanistic orientations do. And there's kind of this assumption that the protectionistic orientation is more biocentric than anthropocentric. So, what is the best orientation to have? I do have to digress a little bit and talk about a couple different pieces of context that really shape the way that I can answer this question. One is that orientation towards animals are culturally embedded. They arise due to perceptions that humans are taught through social interactions, but perceptions that do ultimately exist outside that of the human or even the animal to which they're subjecting their attention or orientation towards. So Blowen, I think, really beautifully summarizes this point with a quote: "Rather than specific individuals, these orientations represent distinct cultural meanings, styles, and understanding." So again, just the understanding that orientations towards animals are culturally embedded. These orientations also change over time. They overlap with one another. It's very rare that somebody has a clear-cut distinction or distinct orientation towards animals. And unfortunately, there is very little research done in this area, meaning that it's difficult to draw conclusions about what the best orientation might be, or perhaps even the impact of orientations on both animal and human companions. But if I had to insert my own personal narrative here, in my opinion, the best orientation is the protectionistic view towards animals, which values all animals equally, which there's the argument that this is a more biocentric view. I do want to note that even the label protectionistic implies a certain level of anthropocentrism, idealizing humans as the protectors of animals or the environment. Nonetheless, I think this perspective is admirable. It also prioritizes animal well-being without overdoing it, maybe even placing the needs of animals above that of a human. And my favorite point, protectionistic orientation. People with protectionistic orientations are more likely to have more animals. So there's more to love, and who doesn't want more animals in their life? I'm sure some people, but certainly not me. I'm really coming close up on that 10-minute time limit, so I just want to say thank you so much for your time and appreciation here. And to close it out, here are my works cited. Again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.